Hi guys, welcome to Hampshire Outdoors Survival. Mickey here. So just a quick one for you. I got asked about sharpening knives and maintaining my tools and equipment, and so yeah, here we go, down the rabbit hole. This is one, isn't it? So not everybody's going to agree with me, not everybody's going to like what I've got to say. However, what I will say is this much: there are 150,000 videos on knife sharpening out there, covering many different techniques, many different systems, okay? And they're all correct. Okay, every single one of them is correct. Find what suits you. Our dexterity, our makeup, the way our arms fit, our knife, our tool, our equipment, how we use it, varies from person to person, okay? So find what works for you. Do your research, find what works for you. A little bit of trial and error, okay? But you'll get there and you'll find the technique that works for you. I'm just going to go through some of the tips and things that I remember when I'm maintaining my tools and equipment. So now, before we start the video, please like, subscribe, share, feed me back, tell me what you think. Okie doke. So So let's get on with it. The basics. Start with something simple. Okay, so take a Mora knife. Okay, now the Mora knife is a wonderful little starter knife. It is absolutely perfect. Okay, they're great tools. They're affordable, they're easy to use, and they're very easy to maintain. And the reason they're easy to maintain is they have a Scandi grind. Well, the grind is this bevel here. Okay, and that bevel is the same from the start of the grind, off the flat of the blade, to the tip. So basically, when you're sharpening, okay, one of these, what you're going to do is you're going to lay the knife flat, you're going to rotate it up until you're on that flat bevel, okay, and then you're going to work the knife back through its process, or, depending on which technique you want, forward on its process, okay. Just remembering that when you come to the tip, you're going to have to lift it, okay, because of the shape of the tip and the way it grinds around the edge. And that is basically how you sharpen a Scandi grind, okay. Whether you go away from you or whether you go towards you is a personal choice. It's what you feel most comfortable with. Whether you go with an overhand method, okay, or whether you prefer to put your fingers up, again, it's down to you. A lot of people will use two hands, put this stone flat, use two hands, maintain that, and go through. The secret to it is be smooth, start and follow it right through to the end of the process. Okay? That will keep one of those sharp for as long as you want it. Now, you can also use a smaller stone, and if you're out, quite often what you're going to have is what we call a hunting stone, a small stone in a sheath to take with you. Okay, the easiest method of doing that is in reverse. Basically, hold the knife, take the stone, find the flat of the bevel and work along it, okay, and do the same the other way. Or you can, but I don't like this method so much because you've got to be a bit more accurate and careful. Do it that way. Now, the technique, whether it's for or against or towards or away, is personal choice. Just be careful. Remember, you're making that sharp in the proximity of those things which you do want to keep, okay? So just remember that. Now, probably more importantly is once you've sharpened it, take a piece of leather, whether it's a strop or a belt, okay, and just a couple of passes will take the burr off. Now, every single time you sharpen a knife or an edge, you'll create a burr. It's as you're taking steel off, it rolls over that tip. The sharper the edge, the smaller the burr, but you will always create a burr. So just by passing it across a piece of leather a couple of times will take the burr off. And quite often, if you've sharpened a knife and you then haven't taken it to the leather, stropped it, okay, you'll be sitting there going, done all this work, why is it not sharp? It's because you've left the burr on, okay? Take the burr off. Now you can quite often feel a burr just by running your fingertips, okay, across the edge. And sometimes if you're out working and you think to yourself, my knife's gone blunt, just take your fingers, run it down the edge and pull it away, and you'll feel a little, it's like a little, just a lip, okay. If you then take that knife and either run it on the back of your belt, or even if you have to, across your boot, okay, the leather of your boot, it'll take that burr off and you'll regain your sharpness and you'll get some more use out of that knife, okay. So that's a Scandi grind. Now the only way that really varies is with secondary grinds, okay. So a secondary grind, take it out so you can see it, is a knife like this, okay. So we've got our initial grind, which you can see just below the spine there, that comes down, and then you've got that bright area, which is a secondary grind. Okie doke. So I can't sharpen it now. Let's try and get the angles right. So now if I try and sharpen it, if I start here, okay, on that bevel, I'm not going to catch the secondary grind, am I? Because the secondary grind, there's not enough light there to do it. The secondary grind, get it there. The secondary grind is actually there, okay. So that's the first grind, profile grind. There's a secondary grind. So that's the one I actually need to sharpen along, okay. This is really difficult to do because I'm trying to watch the screen to see what I'm doing rather than watching what I'm doing to make sure you can see what I'm doing, if you know what I'm doing. Anyhow, so basically what you're going to have to do is come from that secondary one, or that first initial bevel, come to the second bevel, make sure you've got it on there and work along it, okay. Now again, same technique applies. You can do it away from you, towards you, down the blade, but what I will say to you again is try and keep this equal. So if you're sharpening with that method, okay, you're going to pull the same way when you go the other way. So if you're pulling from the back of the blade to the front of the blade in your motion, i.e. you're going that way, okay, when you do the other side, turn it over and do exactly the same the opposite way. Don't sharpen one side one way and then the other side the opposite, okay, because basically what you're doing is you're creating micro striations along the edge of the blade. No matter how, look under a microscope, no matter how hard you work, we haven't yet made the perfectly smooth cutting edge. We've got close. You'll always end up with micro striations, and they act as a saw edge, and the finer that saw edge is, the nicer it cuts, okay. If you sharpen two opposite directions, instead of all the striations going one way, it does that, and it basically cancels them out, okay. So that's how that works. Hopefully that explains edges and how I find edges and profiles. Other than that, I will say to you, do research. There's guys better educated and with better equipment than me to show you how to do it. There are 101 tools you can buy for sharpening, okay. You can go from a simple coarse stone, which was more than adequate for keeping an edge to your tools and your equipment. You go for pucks, reversible pucks, they're great. You can go for something small and simple like that, okay. You can get those in many grades, which I have. If you've got axes and bill hooks, you're going to want a file, okay. Get yourself a good quality file. Now what you're doing with a file, with an axe, is you're repairing damage, okay. With an axe you're hitting things with a lot more force than you are with a knife, okay. And so what happens with an axe is you tend to chip it. The other thing with an axe is it's not such a fine edge, okay, because you're putting so much force behind it. So when you chip a blade, you're going to want a file to work it back or repair it. Now this is a hardened steel edge, so you're going to want a good quality file to be able to maintain that edge and keep that repair, okay. And again, same principle applies. same number of times both sides, working the same profile, working the same angles. Okay, try and keep them equal, and feel for the burr. Okay, when you have a burr, and a burr is an indication of getting towards a good edge, okay, you can then either strop this on leather, okay, or just go to work with it, because you're using so much more force. You'll lose that burr quite quickly. Okay, if you are using an axe and you're sharpening it to the point where you can use it as a hand tool for working with it, you're going to want to finish it with a stone. Now, it's going to give you a difference in profiles, and it takes a lot of work to get an axe to the point where you can use it like a knife, but you can. Okay, but what you're going to do is you're going to go from an angle that's that steep to an angle that's that steep. Okay, so you can get a finer edge on it, and again you're then going to finish that with a stone. Okay, you're going to maintain that edge with a stone, equal amount both sides, and gives you a nice sharp tool. And again, once you've done that, oil it. Okay, and again, cheap and cheerful, good old WD-40, a little bit on the head, take your cloth, give the head a bit, work it in, give it a good clean. You don't know when you're next going to use your axe. Remember to get everywhere. It pulls out any dirt and debris, and it just protects the metal. Okay, and it doesn't need to be sopping. It just puts a coating on there, just gives it a bit of protection. Now, handles on the other hand, okay, are a little bit different. What I like to do with my handles is, I remember an old teaching that I was given as a youngster, which was mineral for mineral, vegetable for vegetable, and animal for animal. Okay, so when you're putting oils onto woods, okay, you use a vegetable to vegetable. And again, if you're putting that handle away, or that piece of tool and equipment away for a prolonged period, giving it a little working over with a light coating of the correct oil is going to protect it. It's also going to feed the wood, so it's less likely to split. Stops wood drying out. Okay, and it doesn't take any time or effort at all. And if anything, ends up with a beautiful tool that's going to last you for many, many years, just with a little bit of care. Now, touch the end of that, salty fingers. Remember that, salty, sweaty fingers. You're putting it away, give it a wipe off. Now, the sheath on this is okay, but I could feed that leather. And if you've got it, neats foot oil or something like that to feed leather. If you haven't, okay, bit of olive oil, okay, but just a little feeding. In actual fact, for a treated leather like that, better still a bit of beeswax. That will last for donkey's years. Keeps it supple, keeps the leather fed, stops it drying out, and stops moisture damage in it. Now I can put that away, leave that for the next 4 or 5 months, hanging up there, and it's going to be absolutely fine. Okay, I know it's going to be okay. The first time I go to use it, it's going to be sharp, it's going to be accurate, and it's going to be in good condition. Handle's not going to break, the metal's not going to be all rusty, the leather's going to be in good order. It's ready to go. Now, and this goes for all your tools, all your equipment. Okay, one that I've neglected over the last few months, purely and simply because I just wanted to see how it would last. Okay, the Silky. I wanted to see, was it worth the 80 quid? Okay, it cost me to buy that. Right, how's it going to last? And this has been used to cut pine, oak, all sorts. It's been out in the rain. Okay, so sharpening it, I'm not going to do. What I am going to do is I'm going to give it a clean. Okay, I'm going to give it a clean and an oil. Now, I'll use one of those because it's got a bit of pine resin and that on it, a little bit of WD-40, and I literally very gently work along the blade, taking off any rust that's starting on there and any pine residue, sap residue that's in the metal. Now, if you're cutting things like oak that are full of tannin, you'll quite often find on the carbon steel blade you'll get a purple residue. Okay, that's the tannin. You can take that off using exactly the same method. Okay, a little bit of WD-40, a bit of Scotch-Brite, and I'm not saying work at it like a maniac because you don't need to. You don't need to use a lot of pressure, but within a few minutes, not only have you cleaned that blade, got it ready for the next time you want to use it, you've pulled off any sap, any residues on there, which are going to slow the blade down going through whatever you're cutting. And it does. You get mank on there. This has to try and slide through the timber as you're cutting it, and it makes it hard. So there we go. And the only thing I will say about these that's a pain is because the teeth are so sharp, you just got to be pretty careful. But yeah, and that goes for any saw. Maintain it, look after it. Okay, and then when you're finished with that, just a little dusting, a little bit of oil. Make sure you get it up on the teeth and into the teeth if you can. Helps protect them on the black, the spine. Okay. Nice little fine coating on there. That's ready to go next time I want to use it. It's not going to rust, it's not going to go manky. Now don't forget the hinges. Okay, as they stiffen up. And again, Jesus, don't need to go mad. Little splash in there. Wipe down over the surface of anything else that's metal. There you go. And that's my Silky Big Boy. Ready to go another day. Do I think it was worth the 80 quid? Yeah. Do I think I'll get a few years out of it? Maintain it and look after it? Yeah. Look after your tools, they'll look after you. Now, when you come to things like hammers and that, okay, it's exactly the same principle. Pretty much with all your tools, the same principle. Get it clean, okay? If you've got something that's taken a lot of abuse, okay, British Army Survival Knife, that's had a lot of abuse in the last few months, okay? So, I'm not too worried about the treatment on it. Put a little bit of Scotch-Brite on this little foam pad, very gently. Just again, takes off any sap, residue, nasties that are on there. Things like tannin, which is an acid, will eventually eat into the metal. Okay, and it just gives it a clean down that back edge, which on this one's taken a bit of abuse. I think it's time for a new knife. I'd like to retire this one, it's had a lot of years service. It's time for this to go away like an old friend, be cleaned up and put up and thanked for its work. Maybe have a look for something else to replace it. Yeah, so we take all the tannins and residues off. And wipe down. Yeah, I know people use WD-40 on the wood. Okay, but I do. I'll say a little bit of Danish oil on the cloth. On the handle. Work it in. As good as new. Okay, much more use out of that. It'll last me for years. Okay, just by taking care of it. It's the most common thing I see people failing to do. There's lots of talk about sharpening, maintaining, sharpening. Sharpening is not maintaining. Sharpening is keeping an edge. Maintaining is keeping it clean. Right, looking after the steel itself. Okay, you can put an edge on almost anything. Take it to me, blacksmith for years. You can make anything sharp, but if you don't look after that steel, it will deteriorate. Okay, it will lose its edge. You'll get materials onto it, things like tannins, saps and that, which can be very, very caustic, very, very acidic, okay, and will damage the structure of the steel. Okay, you've got things like fires, heat that you're working on. Okay, I'm not saying that you're going to reforge your blade, but if you poke your knife in and out of fire, okay, it changes the crystalline structure of the steel. Okay, so you need to maintain it, need to look after it. Things like sheaths, again, people say, oh, the stitching's got on this sheath, it must have been a rubbish sheath. When was the last time you fed the leather, or you cleaned it? Okay, remember things like inside your sheath, okay, you can get dirt and mank in there. Okay, it's not an easy thing to clean out, but even if I tap that one like that, what am I getting out of there? Yeah, bit of muck. Okay, give it a tap out if need be. Okay, if need be, get yourself a little pot cleaning brush and just give it a, make sure there's nothing horrible in there. Okay, feed the leather. That will also help to protect the knife. Okay, yeah, look after it. What else can I say about that? There's not much else I can really say, to be honest with you. I didn't want to go into, like I say, there's so many sharpening videos out there, but the thing I wanted to say to you is look after these things. Okay, treasure them. That's donkey's years old. It smells wonderful. You know, smell of old leather, oil and that, and it's going to be a great deal of pleasure to take care of them, like old friends. Okay, so look after your knives, look after your saws, look after your axes, look after your hammers, look after all your tools like that. Feed the wood, okay, clean the metal, oil the metal up, put it up, and then when you come to use it in the spring, you take it down, you take it out of the drawer, you take it out of the bag, and you open it out. You don't go, oh, that's that knackered, because I tell you what, steel will pit like that. Okay, and once it's pitted, it's pretty much done. That original knife you had that's been in that sheath and the steel's pitted, the only way you'll get rid of that pitting is by removing steel. What have you just done? You've changed the knife completely, taken weight off of it, changed the balance, changed the thickness, the whole lot. It's a shame to have to do that. So just by taking care of your gear, you'll get you by. Hope that helps. Anyhow, please like, subscribe, share, do all the usual bits and pieces that I ask. Send us a comment, tell me what you think. Hopefully this wasn't too long a winded video, and hopefully you enjoy it, and I hope it helps. It's been Mickey, Hampshire Outdoors and Survival. Join us on a Sunday night, 2000 hours. Come and have a chat. Join us in the pub. Take it easy. Love those you do, forgive those you don't. As always, peace and light. Mickey out.